Welcome back to How the Tiger Keeps Its Stripes. These next 3 episodes are all student stories. Each episode consists of 3 students' interviews back to back to back, as they all tell about their Clemson experience, how they're making it through, and even give a little advice to current and future Black Clemson students. The 5th and final episode is a little different, but you'll see how, and it will all make sense in the end. I hope you enjoy. In this episode, you'll hear from 3 Black engineering students talk about finding their niche in one way or another, especially by choosing to stand out as a minority in a majority atmosphere. The organizations you'll hear about in this episode are NEZ-BEE, which stands for National Society of Black Engineers, PEER, which stands for Programs for Educational Enrichment and Retention, a division of Clemson's College of Engineering, Computing, and Applied Sciences dedicated to improving graduation and retention rates for minority students with majors in the college, and the Mechanical Engineering Student Shop, or Machine Shop, which supplies tools, facilities, materials, and supervisors to foster learning of engineering fabrication processes and tools to provide a safe, hands-on educational experience for students. So, here's episode 2, Imperfect Fit.
Why Clemson? So I actually went to the early college at A&T, and so there was a big thought process of either staying at A&T or coming to Clemson for engineering. Mm-hmm. But I chose Clemson because of the personability, if that's the word. It was very personable. Mm-hmm. When I toured, I instantly felt like this was the place I'm supposed to be, mm-hmm. and I definitely just saw myself making a difference on campus. So fortunately, I was a part of the Impact program coming into my freshman year. So we did get to tour campus, and they did highlight a lot of the different historical parts of Clemson that isn't talked about in like the tour that I was on when touring to come here. Right. So I do know a lot about the enslavement within some of the higher people of Clemson, like Tillman and Green and all that, mm-hmm. As well as like the football integration and like our first African American student and all that. Upon like touring and whatnot of Clemson and hearing about the diversity issues and stuff, that wasn't really like a problem to me or didn't really seem as prevalent as when I first like actually came to Clemson. Mm-hmm. And as I worked my way through my courses, I did notice that like most of my classes I would be the only minority student or the only minority female, and so that did become a little concerning to me because I would look to get help from other students and I would just feel kind of intimidated, or we'd be doing group work and I would just not be asked like for my input, or my input I didn't feel would be as valued as other students, and so I just kind of became discouraged within my classes. And I was struggling and kind of struggling silently, but upon different things on campus, like getting involved with like the peer-wise, annex and all that stuff for like the tutoring, as well as becoming a supervisor at the Mechanical Engineering Student Shop, it definitely changed my outlook on my position as being a minority student at Clemson. And I'm currently the only female and the only minority student a part of that, the organization are working on campus with that, and that made me realize, at first I was discouraged. I'm like, why am I the only female? Like, I'm the only person. But I realized that this was an opportunity for me to expand my role on Clemson's campus and to get other minority students involved and help them understand and realize that it's not a thing about holding yourself back. It's about taking opportunity and realizing that you got into Clemson just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. I may struggle a little bit more than some of the other students around me, but I got in here just like they did. So it's almost like not pitying myself. I'm on the leadership team with the organization that are working on campus, and I host workshops and whatnot, and I try to get minority students in particular to get involved and also become supervisors at the machine shop, just to help them kind of realize for themselves, like, this is something that you're capable of. It may sound intimidating and feel intimidating because when you look around, there's nobody else that looks like you, but you can do this just like they can, and it's not as hard as you're perceived to be. And so that getting involved with that and finding my platform with that made my decision to stay in engineering and go through the class, because people have dropped engineering left and right, and I tell all the new freshmen, I'm like, stay with it. Like, people are gonna drop, but when you look around, how many other students look like you? And they're dropping, you know what I'm saying? You have to stay. Like, somebody has to do it, and you can do it. So that's kind of what made me feel like, instead of pitying myself and feeling like I don't belong here, I need to use this to help other students realize that they also can do this and belong here as well. I would just say while I was getting there's like a process you have to go through to become a supervisor, and I definitely was extremely uncomfortable. I didn't have as much experience as the other students that were trying to become supervisors. But once I became a supervisor and I started having to train other students, and I saw that the minority students that I would encounter would be extremely doubtful of themselves. That's kind of when I knew, like, my role in this is way more than me. It's not just me here. It's like I'm impacting other people, and I'm here to encourage them and say, hey, it's okay to ask me for help. That's what I'm here for. And if you need extra help or you need to take some extra time, that's okay. We can do this together. So that was kind of when I felt like I belonged, not just for myself, but I belong here for other people and to help other students at Clemson. I still go through moments where I'm trying to certify someone, or they will not really feel comfortable asking me for help because of the way I look or the way that I am perceived as being a minority female. But I just kind of see it as being almost like overlooked, if that makes sense. But then I realized that this platform is something that I shouldn't feel bad about, or I shouldn't be discouraged if students see me that way, because I can use it to my advantage as a minority student on campus. And so I'm currently working to try and get other supervisors that are minorities, so that I won't be the only one. And so that kind of made me feel like I had a purpose on Clemson's campus, and that I shouldn't switch my major and or leave Clemson because of that. Because I felt like, would that even be a goal on, for the machine shop at all, if I wasn't here to bring that up to them, that we need to have diversity and whatnot. So I definitely feel like I'm playing an integral part of trying to close the gap between minority students and the machine shop, one of the organizations on campus. Instead of seeing everything as like, this is hard, or I don't understand this, or not wanting to actually use the resources on campus, I go out of my way to start conversations. So an example for that could be in a class, I may be behind, I may not understand what's going on. The students next to me are not gonna volunteer to help me. Even if we are working in a group project, they're not going to look at me as if I know the answer, and that's okay to be underestimated, But volunteering and saying, hey, I'm going to start a group meet. Do y'all want to study? Or just reaching out and making a way to succeed. Using all of the resources on Clemson's campus, like the PeerWise, all the different PAL sessions, tutors, office hours. You'd be surprised if you taking that leap of opportunity, that leap of faith, and going out of your comfort zone. People will help you. Even messaging other fellow minority students, like in our group meetings and whatnot, like you'd be surprised with the students that will go out of their way, the upperclassmen, because they've been through it and they want to help you as well. In those environments, I feel a little bit at ease just walking into those environments, because I see and recognize other students that look like me and they're asking for help. And I'm like, oh, this is a place I can ask for help. And I'm not the only person asking for help. That's my initial reaction to those environments. I will say also that learning when to separate your personal and your business. So I consider school like a business. So in those environments, it can be very easy to get caught up with your friends. It can be easy to get distracted and talk about other things, because you're with people that look like you. You're with people that go through things like you. But separating those moments is also very key, because you can go sit in the PeerWise office for hours and not get anything done. But you can also sit there and get the help that you need. So it's all about also how you use your resources. It's okay to go by yourself to get help. You don't have to always invite a friend or go with a friend as well. So I definitely feel like it's how you use those environments. For me, I was able to say, hey, I'd love to talk with you later, but I need to get this homework done. And I need to tell the tutor, hey, you know what I'm saying? I really need help with this. And this is due tonight. You know what I'm saying? Learning when to say this is business, and then we can talk after it's finished. But in those environments, it definitely feels a lot safer. It definitely feels a lot more comfortable, again, because I'm surrounded by people that are wanting to help me. They look like me, they talk like me, all these different things. So definitely great environments to take advantage of if you take advantage of them the right way. There's a lot of hidden gems, I would say, in Clemson, hidden opportunities that will not reach out to you. You have to reach out to them. I'm an industrial engineering major, not a mechanical engineering major, but I work at the machine shop. I'm a supervisor there. And that wasn't just by luck that they didn't come ask me. I asked and I inquired about that role, and hey, can I get involved with this? And you'd be surprised that they said yes. So I would just say, specifically for the machine shop, it's open to all majors. So you don't have to be an engineering major to use the tools and whatnot in there. And it just go out of your comfort zone is what I would say. The machine shop offers, because there's lots of things in there that I feel like students of different ethnicities and minority students are not exposed to, but it is a resource on campus. You're paying to be here, why not take advantage of all the resources and anything and everything you can get a hold of. I know from my personal experience, getting involved on campus and then asking what you're involved with, asking people that you're already involved with about other opportunities, as well as if you see something that looks cool or you're like, hey, I saw a flyer for this, I don't know anything about this, go and just ask them about it, because even though maybe something that they're doing might not be of your interest, they might know something else that is that you had no idea about. So definitely reaching out, showing your face, being involved with things, just going out of your comfort zone. I've seen flyers for things and I'm like, this is absolutely not at all what I want to do, but I might have time. I might say, hey, I want to just stop by and talk to people, because Clemson is very personal. They're very like in your face, like we can make connections happen because we're talking face to face type thing. Even reaching out to your professors and saying, hey, like, do you know of any creative inquiry classes or any projects or research that you're doing about this? That's how I got involved with the machine shop. I asked a professor of mine if there was any jobs on campus or anything I can get involved with, and he offered that, and I said, sure, I don't really know much about that, but I'm willing to learn about that, and we'll see if that works for me. And it did. So asking around is probably the biggest thing that works for me. So being at the machine shop has reinforced my decision to stay at Clemson and as well as stay in an engineering major by reminding me that I'm just as capable as everyone else, and just by reminding me not to pity myself and to not be doubtful of myself just because I may not have the same exact experience or same background as other students. I can be just as successful and I can be just as equipped with things that I need to be successful. What I definitely want to, I guess, live on, and you can get from the story or the message that I'm trying to portray with my machine shop experience, is that opportunity will sometimes find you, but usually you have to find it. The opportunities on campus are not usually chasing and waiting with open arms. Usually you have to hunt them down yourself. And so taking that step, instead of being in your comfort zone and being uncomfortable and saying, hey, like, I'm the only minority student, this is horrible, and almost like feeling bad for yourself or feeling like you're not capable of reaching your fullest potential, taking that one step, you would be surprised, like, to unlock all of the different hidden gems, as I said, in Clemson's campus that can be offered to you, especially as a minority student. There are positions and things that you will get or experience or have the advantage of having because you're a minority student. So I would take advantage of being that. When you look around and you see that you're the only person that looks like you, talks like you, is learning like you, that's not a bad thing. If you don't, it's not a bad thing if you do something about it. You can sit there and suffer in silence when nobody's going, to help you. You may get lucky and somebody will help you, but reaching out and trying to find a way yourself to different opportunities on campus, whether that is tutoring or group meeting, people in your class saying, hey, could you go over this chapter with me if you have time? I really didn't understand what's going on. You'd be surprised the willingness that people will have to help you if you reach out to them and take those opportunities.
I didn't tour anything. I mean, I saw like videos and stuff. I kind of knew what the campus looked like because of like the pictures and stuff. I had never actually stepped foot on Clifton's campus until moving. We were lost the entire day. It was a mess. And then from there, it kind of starts to emulate a lot of, I think, Black students' experiences. I think some people come in with the mindset of like they can deal with white people, but then they don't realize like the kind of white people that come to Clemson, like it's like different. I think everybody that's Black or even not even Black, any minoritized group really kind of experiences that. And so, I started, I'm a kind of bring everybody together kind of person. And so I started just trying to, hang out with everybody, and I'm trying to work with people. And I've noticed that for some reason they have like more hesitancy to work with me, and I'm not really getting it. And I think, like I said, everybody kind of goes through like, what's going on? Is there something wrong with me? And then you don't want to say it's race. And then you start to realize, oh, this might be race. And, this is my 7th year in Clemson. And what's crazy is like there are some people that I had my freshman year who were Black. And even though I wasn't as close with them, I still talk to them to this day. Like, we're still tight. But white people that like I hung out with every single day freshman year, they don't even check on me. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different kind of like I don't know, relationship that they have when they have friendship. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. It's like, it's pretty much similar to most black students, I think. And then I had to find my people, and that's how I got involved with organizations like NEZ-BEE, organizations like Peer. I was never directly involved with Connections, but obviously, like, if you're black, you rock with the people in Connections. The way I sort of fought back against that sort of, I guess, subtle oppression, that's what I like to call it, is just by, really helping my people succeed in engineering, because that's what I was doing. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to try and impact the people that are directly around me. So, okay, so everybody that, was struggling, I always tried to help them in engineering. Any kind of advice I can give in relation to classes or how to navigate a certain situation related to engineering, jobs, internships, research experience. I just tried to help them as much as possible. Subtle oppression. So, like, the way I kind of look at it is like, it's like oppression that if you were to put it in front of a bunch of people, nobody would sort of realize what it is. I mean, it's like, so for example, if you're trying to work in a group of students and they don't want to work with you, it's like, oh, well, it's not that we don't want to work with them. Any other excuse in order to validate them not having to say it's because you're black, or even, let's just say they won't explicitly say that, or they're not even explicitly thinking that. Maybe it's they don't know how to interact with black people, and so because of their lack of education or their ignorance on how to navigate with black people, they ostracize you, even though that may not have been their intent. But not realizing that this kind of forces you to feel, I don't know, lonely and not feel like you have a group of people to depend on, especially when in engineering, I don't care what color you are, like, I'm trying to get through these classes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, I'm trying to learn, and it's like, they form their study groups and they have their test repositories, and they're getting through these classes and they're getting A's, and you're like, well, I'm working hard, but I'm not realizing they have all these different resources that they're not giving you access to just because they don't know how to interact with you, they don't know how to include with you, and that's me giving them an excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, a lot of them, like, I've had friends that have said, like, oh, my parents are racist, which is crazy, right? Like, like, my parents. Yeah, my parents, not my grandparents, but my parents, like the people that literally I just saw walking through this dorm last week, when we've been subtle in the sense that, like, they don't know that, like, that's what it is. It's like they just think, oh, I don't know how to interact with this person, and they may accidentally say something or do something that they don't mean, but it's really racism. Like, I don't know. So in a sense, those blatant acts of racism, like, I know the history, but I will say that, like, even on campus, like, the only blatant act that I've personally seen was the banana incident, that sparked the psych sit-in. And so, like, for me, I've always looked at it as, like, Clemson tries to, I guess, act like they don't have a past, and then these random incidents still happen that make you feel like, dang, like, are they over this, or have they moved past it, or is this still an issue? Like, during my undergraduate, there was a blackface party. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that just gets swept under the rug. Whatever. Sorry about that. Moving on. It's like, well, why is that still popping up? Why are these random things still just popping up if Clemson has truly moved past it and they're really making those cultural changes that they need to like change the viewpoint of how students are acting on campus? If they're really making those efforts, why do these random things keep happening? Like, I grew up pretty poor. Like, I had to really figure out this college thing for the most part on my own, and it was kind of for that reason that I stayed. It's like, well, if you stay in state, South Carolina does treat you really well. You get a lot of those life scholarships. Because I was poor, I had like the Pell Grant and all these other grants and stuff. I got a random grant because, this is funny, I was born in Hawaii, and so there's some like Pacific Islander grant that I got like for like, it was like $1,100. Like, all these different money opportunities, and financially it was just the best thing for me. I only applied to Clemson, USC, and Anderson University, and then Anderson, they had a bridge program with Clemson, and so I was just like, okay, if I don't get into Clemson, I'll bridge over. And I got into all three, so I just, stayed at Clemson. Clemson gave me some money, and so I went to Clemson. And so the reason I stayed was mainly because it was really just the best opportunity. I got my co-op, and so I was able to make a lot of money. I was like sending money back to my mom so she could help take care of my brother and stuff. And it just seemed like, okay, even though despite all of these, I guess, racial problems, education-wise, just financial-wise, as far as opportunity and scholarships, the ability to even get a co-op, like that, like I went through the Clemson co-op program. And so, like, I always was able to like save so much money, and I'm always grateful for Clemson for like allowing me those opportunities to receive like a really good education. And I realized though, like even though I'm like now that I'm older, like there definitely still were opportunities like for me to transfer and go to other schools. But in the moment, like in the moment though, it was just like I gotta make this work. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't call home and be like, Mom, like I'm not enjoying my school. What should I do? You know what I'm saying? Like or call my dad, like, like maybe I should go to a different school, like, because they don't know either. I'm first generation. Like, in the co-op even was just like, I'm going to do that so I can help my mom. And, like, it pushed me a year back, but I was able to, like, send my mom money, take care of my brother, take care of any finances I needed here, like, all that kind of stuff. So that was really why I chose to stay. And that's kind of like an engineering kind of mindset. I just ignored the bull crap, and like I said, my how I chose to fight back was peer and NSBE. And I'm like, you know what? Bump all that. Like I'm a pimp Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Like while I'm here and we got this space, I'm be like, okay, Dean, you need to pay for us to send people to NSBE conferences. You need to make sure that we have enough funding to support peers' efforts and all that stuff. Like people, I guess, don't realize how like involved I am in those kinds of things. I think because I'm so like out of the scene nowadays. But like I've had one-on-one conversations like with Miss Saria on like how to navigate like important situations in regards to like funding or how we should spend certain things, and it's like that's how I choose to fight. I've been in meetings with Miss Saria, the president and dean, to discuss like how things should be allocated to peer. And, I'm not going to say, like, I didn't, I wasn't the decision maker in that, but the fact that, like, I was in that position to really understand how things work, and even for them to, like, give me a chance to speak for the students, that's how I choose to fight back, I guess. So when I looked at PhD programs, I applied to Virginia Tech, NC State, and I think Georgia Tech. No, I didn't apply to Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech, NC State, Clemson. There was one more school. I didn't get into that school. I don't know what school it was, but I guess it doesn't matter. I didn't get into that school, but and I think the reason I didn't look at HBCUs is this is terrible, but they don't have a lot of funding for research, unfortunately. At least robotics research. Like my research now is in robotics and control. Unless you're going to like a Virginia Tech or a Georgia Tech or a Michigan, like even at Clemson, like we're like a R1 institution, and we're just now starting to get into the robotics realm. A lot of the research in robotics is a lot of theoretical work and not so much like, oh, we literally have robots. And Virginia Tech, like they have drones just out just because, you know what I'm saying? Like they really do like the robotics. Michigan's the same way. And so unfortunately, like a lot of the HBCUs from a grad school perspective, they just don't have the opportunities I need to like really be successful. And that's unfortunate. But I think for an undergraduate experience, it would have been much better than a grad school experience. I think, especially because I want to be faculty, I think it's important to really go to those schools that are like leading in the field. But I do know that I want to teach at an HBCU actually. Like, that's like where I want to end up at an HBCU. Because I feel like that's where they need like the real guidance. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I've even heard some things from my friends at like A&T, like a lot of professors, they come and they still like don't really understand the Black experience, because like I think people have this misconception that all the faculty at HBCUs are Black. At least at A&T, they're not all Black, especially in engineering. But I think that sometimes while they are contributing at the HBCU, they're not necessarily like really understanding that Black experience. And I think we still need those Black faculty members at these HBCUs. Peer/WISE. Peer stands for Programs for Educational Enrichment and Retention. WISE, Women in Science and Engineering. Basically, they're organizations dedicated to helping the retention rate of minoritized group in engineering. So Peer serves African American and Latinx students. And I got involved through Peer because of my mentor, Freddie. I was a mentor, and basically what that mentor means is you get assigned freshman engineering students, and you're tasked with just supporting them in any way they need, whether that's, answering a 2 a.m. call because they need to being picked up from a party, or if they need help studying for a test, or if they don't know what classes to take, the whole spectrum of whatever you can experience as an engineering freshman student. And the idea is because you were once a freshman student, you will know how to help them because you've been there, done that kind of thing. And through that, I got really kind of firsthand experience of like my love for like helping and teaching people. I think I find explaining what I do more interesting than actually doing what I do. I do enjoy doing what I do, but I think after I spend an hour like reading a paper or learning about something or writing about something, I would love spending 5 hours just explaining it to a bunch of people. Like it's just so much more fun to me to explain like what I've learned. And so through that experience, I kind of found that love for that. And then I also tutored for peer. And so they have a free tutoring service that they have 4 nights a week from 7 to 10. I tutored 3 nights a week for like 2.5 years, 3 years. And even now, like I do physics study sessions. I just did one Wednesday. And so now I got it to where I can only do the physics study sessions, which is great. So I only have to tutor 3 times a semester, which is so great. One like 3-hour block, and I just tutor. And I did that. And then when I was vice president of NSBE, I'm not gonna lie, my role when I was vice president, I didn't really understand why I was vice president. I just knew that NSBE was important. But it wasn't really until I became a grad student that I really saw the big picture and understand how NSBE fit in when we have a peer. So a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of other schools don't have organizations like peer. And NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, is the peer. So NSBE does the mentoring, NSBE does the tutoring, NSBE does all of that. And so at a campus like Clemson, it can be difficult to find the role of NSBE, but I realized that NSBE's role is to make sure that people have opportunities. The one thing that peer lacks, and this is not a knock on peer, but they don't really help students prepare for the workforce. And that's because they do literally everything else. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's not like they are lacking in any way, but it's just like, look, we just want you to graduate. You know, like the retention rate in engineering is like 50%, right? Maybe even less. It's like, that is a task in itself. And so I'm like, okay, Ms. Rita, like I've tutored, I've mentored. The way that I can kind of repay you for that is making sure that your effort for making sure these people graduate is not in vain. I want to make sure that people get jobs. I want to make sure people get internships. I want to make sure people know how to fix their resume, how to prepare professionally. And so NSBE's role, and that's how I decided to run for president, because last year we sent 6 people to the national convention. This year, we're sending 37. It's like we had to have meetings with President Clemens. He's obviously the president of the whole university. Lee Gill, director of diversity and inclusion on campus. Dr. Gramapadia is the dean of the College of Engineering, so every department, all 10 of them. And so just meeting with them and being like, look, if you're serious about, increasing, the number of people who are in engineering, if you're serious about changing the way that Clemson's campus looks and making it more diverse, we need to make sure that we're sending these people and developing a culture here that is inclusive and also is like almost like a catalyst for success. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people, and you probably met these students too, who come here and they're like, well, I feel alone and I feel like I don't really have any opportunity, and they end up dropping out. They end up transferring. Like I don't know how many people I know who came to Clemson for a semester and they're gone the next semester because they either failed or they just didn't like it here. And it's like, it's not enough to just have people here, you know what I'm saying? And that starts with sending people to NSBE conferences, having them come back and being like, look, there's more to this than, just suffering through classes. There's opportunity for you on the other side, and we're going to be here to help you. And it's like, once you start to cultivate that culture, it's easy to have people stay. It's easy for people to be motivated when they don't do well on a test, because they'll know like, okay, I may not have done well on this test, but like I'm gonna get the next one. Whereas now it's like they fail a test, it's the end of the world. I'm switching majors, I'm dropping out. It's like, I don't know. And that's kind of like what I wanted to change, because I saw that peer was more of like all right, I'm gonna help you. If you need help with tutoring, if you need help with your classes, that's great. But it's like, now I have all these A's. What opportunities are there? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I realized. I know people with 3.7 GPAs. What are you doing this summer? Oh, I'm just gonna go home. It's like, no, like you need to be getting your experience. You know what I'm saying? It's like you need to be really developing yourself professionally. And so that's why I became president of NSBE. I always think about this. Like me and Freddie still text to this day. Like, I was just texting him this morning before you came over. But Freddie was a very big part on why I think I'm still here right now, like in engineering, and why I stuck it through, because he was just so like about his business. Like I didn't do well on a test. He's like, okay, well, this is how you prepare. It's not the end of the world. I had somebody there to tell me like, this is not the end of the world. Like it's crazy how that one sentence can really change somebody's entire perspective. There are a lot of people who fail a test. They don't tell nobody, and they just suffer. And they're like, you know what? I've done this before in high school. Like I'm gonna figure it out on my own. Fail the second test. Fail the third test. And now we can't help you. You failed 3 tests. You know what I'm saying? It's like you may be able to pull some miracle out in the final, but like the chances of that happening are very slim.
Especially if you failed the first
and
three
then
tests.
If you fail the first 3 tests, that means you might not know anything right now. You know what it means? But you have to work even harder. And it's like, it was integral for me. Like peer, both from the tutoring, but also because of peer matching me with Freddie. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if I would have encountered Freddie if it wasn't for peer, just because people don't know this about Freddie, but low key, he doesn't like to waste his time. So like he did, like if you like at the time, like if you weren't his mentor, especially because he was about to graduate, all this stuff, like he just didn't have time for you, and that wasn't even like in a disrespectful way. It's like there may be someone else who could have helped you, but like and so I was always, and I think at the time I definitely took it for granted, but I didn't realize like how valuable, like Freddie, I remember I failed my first chemistry test. Freddie spent 3 hours with me right before my next chemistry test, not right before, but like it was like the weekend before, and we went through chemistry problems. And I got a 71, so not much better. But like, I improved. I passed the next test, and it was like, even just improving, I was just like, okay, he's helped me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to let this man down. Like, he spent 3 hours of his time. Like, let me really be on my stuff. And the next semester, I got like a 3.9 GPA. First semester, I ended with like a 3.1, which isn't terrible considering like how bad my chemistry grade was. But like, I think that like, I knew I could have did so much better. And Freddie, Freddie graduated like a 3.7. Freddie had a high GPA. I'm like, I want to live up to that standard. So like next semester I bounced back and, I just did really well. And so it was just, like I said, I always thank peer for that, because if peer didn't have the infrastructure to find out who I was, Freddie contacted me over the summer, to know who I was. He's like, because at the time, I didn't know if I was coming to Clemson. He's like, are you coming to Clemson? I'm like, yeah, I haven't officially enrolled yet, but like, I'm trying to figure that out now. And he was like, just peer, just having that contact information and having that infrastructure to be able to find me and be like, look, before you even get to Clemson, know that you have a home. And it's like, man, like that was just huge for me. And I definitely took it for granted. I showed up to the meetings, I got the free food, but at the time, I just didn't know. Like as a freshman, you don't realize like how like much work that takes. And it's like, it's not something I realized, so I became a mentor myself, like to really lay the foundation and to really try and make sure that every Black student or every Latinx student or every woman in engineering, and when they come in, they have a home. It's like, I don't know, it was very important for me freshman year. It was important freshman year. I didn't realize how important it was, but I was always active and always there. But I was just like, oh, this is what college is supposed to be like. I didn't realize that's not how college always is. Like, I didn't realize that there are people who suffer in silence. And I realized that there are people who don't take advantage of this opportunity. Like, I just thought, oh, this is the norm. This is what college is supposed to be. Like, but it's not. And that's when I really grew an appreciation for it. The other things that was my goal was I wanted, as president of NSBE, was to bridge that gap, right? So it is weird to have two organizations. So peer is more retention on campus, and NSBE is more professional development. But they need to be working together. And so one of the first things I did was I got rid of our old advisor, and Ms. Rita is actually our advisor. And so, as you mentioned, because peer is funded by CCAS, it's a lot easier to do stuff like get funding or have an event, or just, if Ms. Rita says, President Clemens, like, I need this, he's there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Ms. Rita has President Clemens' personal number.
Because she's the director.
Because she's the director of Peer Wise. As NSBE, it's like, okay, I email President Clemens, no cap, probably every week for 2 months over the summer, no response.
Nothing.
I went to Mr. Rita over the summer. I'm like, hey, like, I've been trying to get in contact with President Clemens. Like, do you think you can do anything to help? Texts him, get email response in an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, just having that power. And so that's when it clicked. I was like, Mr. Rita, you need to be the advisor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be like some sort of like connection between NSBE and peer. And because of that, now we low-key have the benefits of peer, but are still, a student organization, right? So now whenever I need to talk to the president, I just ask Mr. Rita. Whenever I need to talk to the dean, I ask Mr. Rita. Whenever I need money, for instance, we had a conference. Mr. Rita, we're having, because as a student organization, you probably know this, but it's very difficult to access your funds on your off-campus account sometimes, and you have to justify everything, like why you're spending it, and they be auditing people. I still think they audit Black organizations more, but I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I feel like they'd be questioning everything we spend our money on. It's like, what do you think we're doing, like paying rent with this money? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't see why we would, we want to go to conferences. We have things that we need to buy. But going back to my original point, like, we had to spend money for an enterprise vehicle, and we couldn't access our funds off campus because it's a long process because it was like a large purchase, whatever. Miss Reed was like, look, here's the card, buy the vehicles, get the rate that you have now, just pay me back. And it's like, that's so powerful, just having that connection.
That access.
Yeah, and so I fortunately enough was able to combine the two in a weird way, like in like a sneaky way, because Mr. Reed is my advisor. It's like, it's not like we're the same organization. Like, I'm still the president, but when I need something done, Mr. Reed has definitely been able to expedite it. That defining moment for sure was, like I said, that moment where I was just like tutoring for free. It was like, I was only doing it for like 2 months maybe. It was like the semester after I had finished passing physics. Or I got an A in physics, but I had like got really good GPA, and I was like, I'm about to tutor physics. Like, I'm about to just help people with physics because I just love it so much. And that was kind of like, man, like maybe there's a reason I like this so much, and maybe there's a reason that like I would come in and like people were ready for me to help them like with physics, and I'm like, well, maybe I have a knack for this. Like, maybe this is like a calling, and that was from there. It was just up. I was just like, I'm a mentor, I'm a tutor. Like, anybody that needs help, I got you. When it comes to the defining moment for NSBE, it was when I started talking to people last year, and I realized like, okay, we need to really make clear what the difference is between NSBE and peer, and then whatever that difference is, and NSBE needs to fit that mold very well. And I also need to find people who understand that as well. And so I built the team, the secretary, Trey Butler's vice president, all these very like other big names in peer. Right. And we're like, okay, we're going to bring NSBE back. We built that team, and then I was like, I'm going to be president. Everybody was just like, we sat in that first board meeting, and we're like, it was all 13 of us just looking at each other. And we're just like, all right, this is the first day. This is the first meeting. And I said, my goal as president, I want to send 40 people to the national conference. I want to establish legacy and establish programs that we can repeat every year. I want to make sure that we have a relationship with peer-wise, because there's no reason why the two organizations should be separate. The thing I'm most proud of being president of NSBE, like just being able to really establish a legacy. So like we have NSBE week right before the career fair, both career fairs, where we do resume workshops, LinkedIn workshops, how to dress, how to prepare for a conference, how to like interview, like a series of events where we just go through all those things. That's something that you can do every year. I told them, we have the instructions for how we laid it out, what we need for each workshops, and it only can get better. You know what I'm saying? Like, it only can get better. Like, you can do that every year. Engineering Bowl, preparing people for the FE. So the FE, you know what the FE is? Fundamentals of Engineering exam. Oh, the FE is the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. Preparing for that. All these different things that, like, we kind of, like, just brought to the campus. And I'm just, like, that's probably the thing I'm most proud about, is just being able to really leave that legacy behind. It's like, all right, this is how I'm going to go out. You know what I'm saying? I think it's very easy to get discouraged at Clemson if you're a minority, because you really have to search for your pockets of where you fit in. I think that's something that the majority doesn't really have to do. Like I said, as far as like being a part of those organizations, it's like motivation is definitely the key factor. Like it's very easy to get discouraged, and it's very easy to not feel like you have a home or you have a place. And it's like just being able to have that home and place is just so important. Like it's just, I don't think I would be here if I didn't have that place. I don't think I would not be here. I would not have stayed 7 years. I would have been more hesitant to like pursue that master's at Virginia Tech than at Clemson if it wasn't really for peer and NSBE. But it was because I knew like if I stay here, at least I have that support. At least I'd, be able to have the funding that I needed to be successful. And that was just more important to me at the time. Like, I think that is what allowed me to want to stay here for sure. A lot of Black students may not appreciate the education that we're being afforded. Like, Clemson is still a pretty good school. No matter what's happening with the majority, no matter what the drama is, like, you really have to kind of, like, peep that, address it, and then find your home and like find your people who do kind of agree with what you're saying and what you're thinking, and who know like what you need to be successful, because that exists at Clemson. And like things like the Gann Center, things like Cosmic, things like Peer, Connections, all these organizations just get overlooked because of all the crap that's happening at Clemson. And I think people start to question, oh, like what kind of Black person would want to go in that kind of environment? And it's like, well, there are excellent Black people here at Clemson. And it's like there are people who are doing great things at Clemson. And I think that gets overshadowed by the bullcrap. And it's like, while, it is unfortunate that we have to try to excel in this environment, we're still excelling. And like that doesn't get publicized much, I don't think. I think there are just so many people like who are doing more amazing things than me that probably nobody on campus even know about. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I don't want anybody who's looking at Clemson to think that, oh, because of things like the Sykes sit-in or, you know, the plantation being on the middle of the campus, it's like people are working to solve those issues very avidly. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, you know, the work that, you know, Dr. Rhonda Thomas is doing to really expose Clemson University, you know, I just watched her receive an award, a research award, in front of the president. In her speech, she talks about how racist the institution is while she's getting an award. Like, that's the most pimp shit. He's like, you know, you're doing great work. You know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of things that people don't see. And it's like, I don't want anybody that's coming to Clemson to think that, like, we're just accepting it. You know, like, we're not. We're not going for it. You know, we're going to pimp you. We're going to get our education. We're going to make sure that we succeed, but we're also going to fight this oppression, and we're going to make sure that we're holding our institution to a higher standard. Right. And, you know, I've met President Clemens, and people can say what they want to say, but I think his job is much more difficult than people think. It's like you have to try to please black people while not pissing off the racist assholes that fund the university. Right. It's like, how do you navigate that situation? But people don't know this, but President Clemens chartered a NSBE chapter at his old institution. Just the fact that he's like, he reached out to me and was like, Mark, how is NSBE going? Like, you have a million other things to do, but you care about my little organization. So the fact that you know, are taking the time to make sure that we're good, like, let me know if you need funding to go to this conference because that's important. It's like, people are really trying to change this university for the better. And I like the direction it's going. Could it be faster? Yes. Could they do more things actively right now? Yes. Yeah, sure. But it's happening, and I'm grateful for it because I don't know. I think that there are a lot of great people that get overshadowed because of the bull crap that happens at Clemson.
I remember being 11 years old and going to my principal because 2 twin boys wouldn't leave me alone. And it was always some passive-ass racist shit. But they're boys and I'm a girl, so like... And so I go to the principal's house. My story moves her to tears. She didn't do shit about it because one of the twins' mothers was on the board of Duquesne University. So there's that. So then I go to high school, and I was the only black person in my class until my sophomore year when a girl named Kennedy transferred in. And so high school was a little bit better. However, since I was the peck of pepper in the salt jar, I was always looked at harder by the administration. And so I had so many people that could vouch for this. There were so many times where I was near expulsion or near suspension for simple shit. I am the oldest of 7. I'm a first-generation college student. I'm triple minority. And my city has a higher murder rate than Chicago. My parents would have been satisfied if I went to community college. Like, they would have been excited just for me to, like, go and be productive because, like, it's a fucking wasteland. I only wanted big schools with good engineering programs. I applied to 7 schools. Penn State, the University of Pittsburgh, Maryland, Michigan, Clemson, Duquesne University, and Robert Morris University. I got in every single one of them except Maryland and Michigan. No hard feelings. But when it came down for me to truly decide where I wanted to go to school, Duquesne, Pitt, Penn State, and Robert Morris were all in the city. So I would have to go face the same people that had tormented me my whole life. And so when it came time for me to change all of that, you know, I had told my mom that I was applying to Clemson. And this is before I even started my application. We went on, it was previously called the Fall Blitz, but now it's called Fall for Clemson. And so we went and we just absolutely fell in love with the campus. And so after that, my mom was just like hell-bent on Clemson. I get my first acceptance from a top 25 engineering school, Penn State, 1 month early, and I'm running around my house screaming. And I call my mom and she was like, I'm very happy for you, but it's not Clemson. And then on President's Day, I was asleep and my mom called my full name, like screamed my entire name. I have 2 middle names, so like that's like a mouthful. And so I was like, okay, like we're in big trouble. Like I don't know, like literally I woke up for a second, I was just like, wait. And so I tumbled down the steps and my mom is sitting on the couch like this with a big ass envelope in her hand.
Is it the Tigers?
And we just started screaming. I got no words out. We just started screaming. Me going to the South, I kind of knew that, you know, if I wasn't treated as well up north where they're not super racist, I might not be treated the same when I go down south where they actually make it a point to tell you that they don't like minorities. Well, it's been great. And I think when in me coming and in me kind of really, in that settling in that like I am going to the South, like I am going to be exposed to different things, that's what I wanted. Because all my parents want for me, all that I want for myself is to diversify my experiences. Because who are we as adults if we haven't been anywhere? You know what I mean? You can't really make judgments on certain things or certain people until you've experienced that. I couldn't have sat there and said the South is terrible if I've never been to the South. I can't sit there and say the North is terrible if I've never been to the North. You know what I mean? I can't go out here and say every white person is racist if I've never encountered every white person. You know what I mean? And so for me, I wanted the diversified experience. I'm not saying that I was asking to, you know, be lynched or asking to be subject to racial prejudice. But that's something that I kind of wanted to experience for myself because I got 6 other siblings. When they ask me how my life has been, I want to be able to tell them, look, like, you don't go to these places at night. This is how you carry yourself. You need to make sure that, like, this is what you're doing. Because my siblings are way more racially ambiguous than me. And so in coming to Clemson, I haven't experienced at least as much being subject to racial prejudices as I thought I was going to be. But obviously, you know, you walk around with black skin, you're kind of a target anyway. It hasn't been super blatant. I know some of our fellow Black Clemson family members, you know, have been taunted by white people and things like that. I've never experienced that, but that doesn't allow me to dismiss the racism, obviously. It does make me uneasy when I'm walking through the library and I'm seeing white nationalist club flyers on the bulletin board. It can be very frustrating, you know, I just failed the test. You know, I feel like the university is against me. You know, my financial aid got declined, any XYZ, and I gotta walk past the slave master's house that built this university. And so it can kind of create a mindset that they need to be doing more. In me coming to Clemson, one of my biggest things was I was like, I'm in the South. I want to meet more black people. There's a common struggle to be shared, but the focus of the experience is definitely shifted. And so for someone who lives with existential angst, my biggest thing was finding people who were like me. It turns out that my first freshman roommate was exactly like me, almost down to the mental illness. And so it's like, I can't clean, I can't shower, I can't do things, neither can she. And it helped me to feel better about that because I didn't feel like I was being judged. And so it so happened to turn out that while she was from South Carolina and, you know, one of the poorer parts, you know, she taught me a lot about just how to navigate the world and how to navigate my resources. Anything that we wanted to do, we would take each other. And so, you know, I'm in Theta Tau Professional Engineering fraternity. I took her to the interest meeting, you know. She took me to the NSBE meeting, and so now I'm the secretary of NSBE. And so it's just things that manifest like that I never even knew that was going to happen, but that's what I wanted. Like, high school me wanted all of that to happen. High school me wanted me to come to Clemson, get involved in NSBE, get involved with Peer, and really serve my true purpose. Well, I'm a biomedical engineering major. My life goal is to improve the quality of life for transplant patients. If I'm out here trying to improve the quality of life for sick people, why can't we improve the quality of life for everybody else? It's not about my experience. It's about my experiences being able to help other people with the quality of their lives. And so NSBE has played a big part in that because NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, is what it is. It's a society of black people. And for someone who goes to class and doesn't see black people, you know, I'm also away from my family, so I'm not even seeing people who actually look like me. It can be very motivating and fulfilling to see 12, 13,000 engineers in the same room as you. People who share the same mindset, people who share the same struggle of not only engineering, but being black at a PWI. It makes it not so bad because I think any college student, white, black, and different, you kind of go through a time where you're like, geez, like, this is hard. Like, this is really hard. And it can be very difficult to come out of that place, out of such a dark place when nobody else is on your side. And at NSBE, everybody's on your side, you know? It was almost overwhelming for me when I went to my first national convention, NSBE 44, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I walked in the room, and that was the largest NSBE conference they had ever held. 13,000 black professionals, collegiates, pre-collegiates in the same room. And I kid you not, I was shook. Like, I was in shock. I had never seen so many black people in the same space. And then you navigate through the conference, and everybody's there to help you. You know, we focus on professional development, mentoring, workforce placement, things like that. And so when you have people that look like you who are in those positions, not only does it let you know that one, this is possible, but two, it can't be that hard. You know what I mean? Because obviously if somebody can do it, white, black, and different, somebody can do it, you can do it too. But also for black people, for people who, you know, traditionally aren't placed in positions of power due to outside forces, it can really make it kind of reassuring that, like, hey, like, you're on the right path, like everything that you're doing is right. Because again, with the discouragement, it becomes really hard to kind of like pick yourself back up when you're also doing bad in school, you know what I mean? And so it's not, sometimes it may be due to outside factors, but a lot of times it's because engineering is hard. And so traditionally engineers have lower GPAs because it is hard. You know, you want to take status and dynamic class? I don't think so. When you go to these conferences, no matter what scale, it just is so reassuring to walk into the same room as 50, 60 black people. It feels like I'm coming home. At the end of the day, yeah, we're engineers. But the reason NSBE had to be created was because Black engineers and white engineers, Hispanic engineers were not the same. And it's because of the experiences. You know, I can't sit in front of a white person and expect them to understand my experience as a Black person, simply because they're not Black. These groups, especially for minorities and traditionally underrepresented groups, are very important because who else shares the same struggle than people who are like you, than people who come from the same exact background? You know, one of the girls that I met is from Detroit. Detroit and Pittsburgh are not the same, but you know what is the same? Being Black at a PWI, being Black at a PWI in the engineering program, you know? And so there's always gonna be a common struggle, I think. But the common struggle lessens itself, I think, when there are more people sharing in the common struggle, you know what I mean? When we can laugh about it amongst ourselves, I think that's when you kind of know that you're at home. For me, it kind of just solidifies that, like, this is where I need to be, because obviously there are times that I doubt myself because I am 500 miles away from home. So very often I sit in my bed and I'm like, am I doing what I need to be doing? Because there's a lot at stake right now. I'm my mother's oldest child. If anything happens to me, physically, mentally, anything, everything falls apart. I have over $200,000 in student loan debt. This is not a game. Like, I'm already 1 year behind, and that's fine because college is not a race, it's a marathon. But with that being said, every day for me, at least that's what it feels like, every day for me, something is on the line. And so I can't go through life like that. I already have existential angst. I can't go through life being super stressed and literally, like, to the point where I'm sweating and nervous every single day. And the reason I don't is because of the community I found here at Clemson, whether that's in NSBE or Black Clemson. That's where the whole quality of life thing comes from, because college, yes, you're here for an education, but people pick college based on where they're going to have a good time. And a good time could be, at the most basic level, feeling safe. A good time could be, hey, I just want to walk down the street and feel okay. So obviously I might pick Clemson over Temple in Philly, you know what I mean? And so it's things like that. When I was looking at my colleges, yes, it was about the education, obviously. Like, I'm not about to take out all these loans if I'm going to get a crappy education. But it goes even further than that, because what is my quality of life going to be like? And so when I sit in my bed and I ponder, am I doing what I need to be doing? It all comes back to my quality of life. How am I? Depressed, very anxious. But I'm having the best time of my life. Seriously. That's where my quality of life comes from. It could be way worse. Like my life could be way worse. And so it's like, am I going to sit here and harp on what could be or what is? You know what I mean? I'm applying to grad schools now. And I just looked up top bioengineering grad schools. Clemson University, number 34. Best value bioengineering degree. Clemson University, number 4 in the world. And so it's like, I have everything to be grateful for. This is great. Because I'm not even doing that bad in school anymore. And so it's like, I'm doing good in school, you know. I'm pretty darn happy with the South. Like, you know, there's not burning crosses on my lawn, you know what I mean? Like, people are not tormenting me. And so my quality of life is pretty straight. And so with that being said, now it's my job to just make sure that everybody else's quality of life is straight. I'm doing all I need to do for myself. But what about my friends who are depressed? What about my friends who are engineering majors who don't know about NSBE? What about all the other people who are engineering majors who don't know about NSBE? You know what I mean? It's my job to spread that word because NSBE has been so essential to my life that I don't know how it couldn't be essential to anybody else's life. You know what I mean? And again, it's all pick and choose. You can only get out of something what you put in. And so I'm not trying to force it down everybody's throat. But hey, if you want to be an active member, reap these benefits. You get insurance discounts. Like, before I'm an engineer, I'm a person. And before I'm a person, you know, I'm just taking up space. And so it's like, what are we doing with that space we're taking up? What are we doing as people? Because I know what I'm doing as an engineer. I know, like, my cell work, you know, all of my research is going to improve the quality of life for transplant patients. What am I doing as a person? Obviously, not everybody's a transplant patient. That doesn't mean I can't improve their quality of life. You know what I mean? What am I doing taking up space? Let's be useful with this space. And so NSBE has just really helped to kind of redefine my focus on what's important. The majority always puts the minority against each other. And I think that is, you know, used as a tactic of oppression. With that being said, the more that we facilitate those tactics of oppression and, you know, giving in to, like, that, the majority putting us against each other, what are we really doing? But the job of everybody in higher education, if you're a person of color, is to go back to your community and be like, I did it, and like, so can you. Like, here's how to do it. And so what I'm really trying to do with my whole mission, with my whole spiel, is to just really just serve as a blueprint, like, of what you can do with your life. You don't have to follow my story. And a lot of people, tend to think that traditionally, if you're not in the STEM fields, like, you can't be successful. Yes, you can. If that was the case, there wouldn't be so many billionaires. People are so money hungry that they kind of lose sight of what's important. And the importance is that quality of life. And so when people ask me, should I do engineering? I don't know, should you? What are you actually interested in? If you're an engineering major and your passion isn't engineering, isn't sustainability, isn't, helping people, isn't doing what you are literally doing in class every day, you need to switch. You know what I mean? If you're in NSBE and your passion isn't about advancing the next generation of black engineers, yielding 10,000 black engineers by the year 2025, what are you doing here? Cell work right now. I'm exploring the efficacy of vitamin C and in microbial wound dressings. What am I doing? My cousin got his leg amputated due to a diabetic foot ulcer that started in his toe. Yeah. With my technology, with the research I've been doing for the last 2 years, we're preventing that. So it's things like that. What are you truly doing? And I'm not saying that just because you're not doing research, you don't have a purpose, because that's not true. Your purpose is for you. And so whatever's important to you is important. And so the best thing to do in college is to find that. What's important to you? Like, it's a running joke that I've taken every L at Clemson. But look where we are. We're still here, still kicking, still pushing. It is what it is. And none of that could have been possible without the black community. The black community specifically at Clemson, but even further than that with NSBE, because the black community at Clemson, at least, is only 6% of the population. 6% of 17,000 is not that many. It was the black community at Clemson that really got me into NSBE, which is really getting me, into the rest of the world, essentially. My first corporate America experience was Boston Scientific on a co-op last spring, and that was through NSBE. I went to the NSBE conference, scored an interview. I didn't know they were doing on-the-spot offers, just so happened they were. Got this internship, and now my views have changed even further. At the end of the 2018 fall semester, I thought I was going to withdraw from school.
Why didn't you?
Because I had an internship offer from NSBE. Because I knew that with Clemson's cooperative education program, all you have to do is register for a 0 credit hour class, co-op 1010, and go work in a different state. Make all your money, never go to class, and you're still a student. And that's what I did. I could have been the last person to touch your grandmother's mesh catheter before it went into her to help her live a normal life, to improve her quality of life. It takes soul searching. There's really not, a list of things to do. It's really just about knowing yourself. And sometimes knowing yourself is really hard. Sometimes a lot of the things that we go through in life are really hard for us to accept. And so for me, it's a running joke. All of my friends can vouch for this. My biggest thing to tell people who are struggling, go to therapy. And yes, I say that very passively, but one thing I want people to know is that therapy is not a replacement for your shitty home life. Therapy is not a replacement for the fact that your support system is not supporting you. It's not a replacement for the friends who are constantly tearing you down every day. At a certain point, you gotta look at yourself, you gotta look at your life, and you need to understand what is important for you. You'll know that when you know that. In doing that, find what you're passionate about. Find what's improving. Find what you like to do. You like to sleep all day? That's fine, but you need to go to class. Especially in the retention of Black Clemson students, because that's what we really need. We need you to come back. We're tired of these one semester folks. If you're there for yourself, that's when people come there for you. I don't have friends because my friends feel bad for me. I have friends because my friends are confident in who I am. You know what I mean? I don't have friends because of my terrible, tragic story. I have friends because of the way that I have overcome that story and the qualities that come from the tragedies in my background. A lot of times I hear from Black Clemson students they're having problems finding their niche or their group, but it's you gotta go out there. How are you going to find your group if every single weekend you're in your room? How are you going to find your niche if you don't communicate with anybody in class? And I'm not saying you got to walk up to every single Black person on campus, give them a hug and kiss, and just be like, yes, you're mine now. But it doesn't take anything for a head nod. What's up? Hey. Or pop into the group message every so often. Can anybody help me? That's how you find people. That's literally how you find the people you're supposed to be with. A recent PhD student, Travis Smith, said it's a running joke among people from HBCUs who come to Clemson that Clemson students do the Clemson shuffle. Basically, they walk past each other and they shuffle away from each other. They don't say hi, they don't greet each other. And that's very real. I would be anxious to see the data on the people who do the Clemson shuffle and then the people who say that they can't find their niche. The numbers are probably exactly the same. You're not making the effort. If all you do is go to class, go to the library, Never take advantage of your resources, of your Black resources, of the resources literally designed for underrepresented students. You're never gonna find those underrepresented students. I would never know anything about what it truly means to be a Black woman in America if I would have just blown NSBE off. If I would have just blown the Black community off. If I didn't come to Clemson with the intent of meeting Black people, I would have never known what it truly meant to be in my position. I find that out every day that I wake up at Clemson University. It's really just about who you are as a person. And remembering why you are that way. And it's not about judging why you are that way, but just remembering, I'm this way because of my environment. What am I going to do to change that? It doesn't need to be STEM, and I encounter so many Black people especially who are just so down on themselves because they transferred out of engineering. Why? Sometimes it's really just not for you. It doesn't make you any less smart than anybody else. This is college. Things are hard in any major. I don't want a doctor who was born to rich people and fed a silver spoon his whole life, got into medical school on some recommendations. I want the doctor who grew up poor like me. I want the doctor who came from a single parent household with hella siblings. The one who had to struggle through undergrad, struggle through med school, because that's the one who's really passionate about what they're doing. That's the one it means more. Truly finding your passion is very important. Not even to get through life, but really to get through college, because what people don't realize, these 4 years, it's an entire isolated situation. It all comes down to what you need to be doing. What do you need to be doing? That's up to you. That's you. And so my best advice for these students, whether they're incoming freshmen or people who just kind of maybe have lost their way, the only way to refocus is to look inside of yourself and say, who am I? And sometimes you don't know. And that's when maybe you might see out some friends or your support group or things like that. But it really comes down to who you are as a person and what you want to do with your life, regardless of what your parents say. My mom could care less that I want to improve the quality of life for transplant patients. All she wants from me is to be happy. And I'm happy doing that. I'm happy being a productive citizen. That's all she's ever asked of me. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing it for me. And so at that point, who can stop me? Nobody.